Quasi here, and in this video I want to share with you the concept of toxic positivity, and I want to share with you really why trying to be positive all the time is actually making you more negative and is creating more obstacles in your life and is ultimately leading you to staying stuck in the same patterns over and over again. This is something that most of the self-help industry misses out on, so I want you to stick around to the very end of this video, because not only am I going to show you the key misconceptions, but by the end of this, I'm also going to give you 2 tools to learn how to manage your internal state the correct way. Okay, so please stick around to the very end of this video, because I do think this is going to be a game changer for you. Before I begin this video, I want to quickly announce that spots for the free consult for the Reality Mastery program are now open. Just wait till the end of the video to understand how to enroll for that, so if you wanted to work closer with us. And with that, let's get started. So today I want to talk to you about the concept of toxic positivity. Why do I want to talk about this? Recently someone commented on one of my videos and he was like, oh, you should make a video on toxic positivity. I didn't even know what that meant. But what I do see are the effects of toxic positivity on our clients, you know, on people on the channel, people who reach out to me. And this word accurately sums up what they're going through. And this misconception comes up in the self-help industry that you've got to be positive all the time, right? That's what toxic positivity is. People put forward the idea that, oh, you must, no matter what happens, you should be positive, you should be positive. But even though that's true, there's an underlying subtlety to it that most miss out on. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that subtlety, that nuanced point, and by the end of this video, as I mentioned, I'm going to give you the 2 tools to overcome all of those resistances that are hiding in the background that you don't even see. So the definition of toxic positivity is you've got to be positive all the time, no matter what. Okay, and what this actually leads to, the biggest problem of this, is that it actually leads to suppression of what's trying to come up and an incorrect processing of your emotions. Okay, so this leads to suppression, and suppression inevitably leads to repression. So repressed memories are the memories that keep coming up, and you keep having these moments of panic attacks or any other anxiety attacks that you experience on a day-to-day basis. So all of these keep happening because there's something repressed in your subconscious mind that keeps coming up that hasn't been dealt with. And that was, you know, throughout your childhood, as you were brought up, as you experienced things, how you related yourself, what meaning you put onto them, and basically stuffing them to the side is what causes this. So if you try to be positive all the time, you're stuffing out what's trying to come up, and then this is going to lead to more problems being created later on in your life. So to give you an example of this, I recently encountered this with our program coach. So he works for us, he does the enrollment calls for the Reality Mastery program, and you know, sometimes when you do sales, you get into a negative funk because you're getting all of these rejections, and you know, you try to reach out to all these people and you're not getting the kind of answer you're looking for. So what he would do is he would try to hype himself up, right? He would be like, oh, you know, this is the best program, you know, people want it, oh man, I'm going to be able to sell it. And when he tries to hype himself up, what he does is, because he's not feeling good, he's coming from a place of, I don't feel good. Let me do all of these things so that I do feel good. This actually has a focus on resistance. So this focus on resistance and the activity that you're doing when you're hyping yourself up, when you're doing all of these affirmations, is actually reinforcing this resistance. So if you try to come from a negative place, right, and you try to tell yourself all of these things that you don't truly believe, but you're just trying to convince yourself of it, it just reinforces that lack. Okay? So this is why a lot of people, when they do affirmations, it doesn't really work for them, because they just find that they're trying to force themselves to believe something that they don't truly believe, right? The mind doesn't need repetition of some words to believe something. It needs to emotionalize it. It needs to see proof of it. Okay? And because there's no proof and no evidence, it doesn't want to believe it. I remember when I was doing sales too, you know, I used to get into this state and I would try to pump myself up. Even when I would make my YouTube videos, I would try to pump myself up, you know, on days that I didn't feel good. And I would try to force myself to feel good. Like, oh no, you got to feel good. You know, you got to feel good before your videos, or else you'll have a shitty video. And when I tried to do that, the videos came out a little more like sticky. You know, it was just a lot. You could tell my energy was off in those videos. And because of that, the quality of those videos weren't the best. So Once I let go of that, and this actually took me a long time to realize, once I understood that there's a underlying resistance behind the desire to positivity, once I eliminated that, that's when things started going well. Okay, so what really happens when you try to bring yourself to a positive state when you're negative is basically this. So you have, let's say this is your attitude right now. And this is your attitude towards the attitude. So if you feel negative right now and you're like, oh shit, I feel negative about being negative. This creates even more negativity. This compounds the negativity on itself. But then what happens is, oh shit, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I shouldn't be feeling like this. Then you're more negative about feeling negative about feeling negative. So this goes to the power of 3 now. Instead, if you just stopped it at its tracks here and you're like, well, I feel negative. Okay, that's okay. You know what? I'm human. I'm allowed to feel this way. You turn this negative into a positive. Your perception of how you're feeling right now changes. Okay? Your attitude about your attitude changes. So how you relate to these emotions right now actually changes. So this is actually part of how you deal with toxic positivity the correct way. Okay? So we're going to get into that later, but for now just remember this. So to conclude the example that I was giving you with our program coach, once I told him, look, you don't need to feel good all the time. You can feel bad. Okay? You're allowed to feel bad. Just because you feel bad doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. This is the second part of it. Most people think that they need to feel good all the time in order to be successful, in order to get what they want. But that's not true. Good feeling arises. You don't force it and try to bring it up. You don't try to fill up the cup with something artificial. This leads me to key number 1 actually. That happiness is a state of being. Okay, peace and happiness is actually a state of being. You can only arrive at a state of being through reduction. Okay, happiness is a state of being, and it can only be arrived at when you remove the things that are making you unhappy. So if you look at all of these things that are happening right now, all of those attitudes, all of those thoughts that come up, instead of trying to put more thoughts in there of positivity, think positive, oh no, focus on this, that's just going to create more and more unhappiness, more and more resistance. Instead, if you just surrender and let go of these feelings that come up and you allow yourself and you give yourself permission to feel as you do now, slowly all of these emotions are going to get processed. Okay, I hope that makes sense. That's key number 1. Happiness is a state of being. Number 2, force will always create a counterforce. Okay? Force creates counterforce. So you don't overcome negativity through trying to be positive, because you're now forcing yourself to be positive and you get a counterforce. So this actually keeps the resistance going on and on. So just as it doesn't matter what activity you're doing, you could do all the affirmations you want, you can do all the visualizations that you want, but if it's coming from the wrong place, it's not going to work. You can take all the action that you want, but if it's coming from the wrong place, it's not going to work. You can go out and reach out to your prospective clients, but if it's coming from a place of neediness and I need this, and I need this to close, and I need this to happen, they're going to feel the neediness coming from you. So do you see what's happening? It's never the action that really matters, but the intention behind the action. I actually made a video on this, by the way, the difference between action and intention. Click up here to check that out. I'll also put it in the description. But that's essentially it. So I want you to remember these 2 keys, because now we're going to get to the tools and consolidate how you can truly deal with toxic positivity and how you can overcome it. The biggest thing that helped me in this journey of overcoming that toxic positivity and the need to be positive all the time is just ending the battle within myself. So remember the feedback loop I showed you earlier of the different perceptions that you have of how you feel. First of all, you feel negative, and then you feel negative about feeling negative, aka you don't give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling right now. This creates a deeper battle. This creates a much deeper battle than the original state, the attitude of negativity. Okay? This is even worse. It just puts it to the power of 2. So the only thing to do here is just end the battle with yourself. Give yourself permission to feel as you do now. Oh, I don't feel good? That's okay. That's completely fine. I don't feel the best. But is it going to affect what I'm intending to do? Is it going to affect my actions? No. So you allow yourself to feel as you do, and you just keep doing what's necessary. That way, your feelings and your attitudes don't affect your actions as much. So to give you an example, when I was making YouTube videos and on days that I wouldn't feel good, I just allow myself to not feel good and just, okay, let's see what I can do anyways. Let's see what the best that is. And sometimes some of my best videos have come out then, right? Like if you look at my videos back in May of 2019, that's when I wasn't making any money in the business, right? And that was the worst month of the business, and I had a lot of pressure on myself. I had to make money, I had to prove to my parents that this business is viable, blah, blah, blah. And the more pressure I put on myself, the more resistance I created. So instead of doing that, I just allowed myself to feel that, and I just made the videos anyways. So I came from more of a place of neutrality towards what attitude I had. So that place of neutrality is really acceptance. Instead of focusing on positivity, focus instead on being neutral and being accepting of what is. So what you need is not positivity or a good mindset, but you need acceptance. Okay? And acceptance simply means change the relationship that you have towards what you're feeling. Right now, when you feel negative, right, you feel something undesired and undesirable, but then you have an attitude towards that. You have the relationship towards that, how you relate to this feeling. Change that. Change your relationship to how you feel. It's as simple as that. And I do hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, just leave me a comment and let me know that it doesn't make sense. I'll try my best to answer it there. But that's number one. End the battle with yourself. Change the relationship that you have. Allow yourself, give yourself permission to not be perfect today. It's okay. You don't have to feel perfect all the time. But don't let that affect your performance. Don't let that affect what you're doing. Okay? Don't let that affect your actions. That's number one. Number two, this is a very, very big one. Make success unconditional. Okay? Most people's success and well-being is conditional. It's conditional upon them feeling good today. It's conditional upon them having this right. It's conditional upon them sleeping well, etc., right? So because they create all of these conditions, if the conditions aren't met, what happens? They don't move towards success. They don't experience success. As a result, their attitude also gets fed back into, right? So make success unconditional. You don't have to feel good to become successful. There's going to be a lot of different feelings and a lot of different attitudes that come up. It's the space behind it, the nuanced space, how you perceive all of those attitudes. Okay? If you perceive all of these feelings, the negative feeling, the positive feeling, the negative events that happen, the positive events that happen, all as a blessing is in disguise, they will all lead you to success. It's as simple as that. That's what I told my program coach, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you feel bad. Just allow yourself to feel bad. Give yourself permission to. You don't have to feel good to close sales. You just have to focus on the other person and help them see that what problem they have and if we can help them solve that. Simple. What we do is we keep pondering upon our own problems, we keep dwelling upon our own problems, and everything has to be perfect, and we insist on perfection. Our conditions need to be met. But the reality of it is it's never going to be perfect, right? Like you'll never be ready. You'll never be ready for the challenges that come because you become ready when the challenges show up. Do you see what I'm trying to say? You'll never be able to anticipate all of the challenges that come unless you get your hands dirty, unless you get fully involved with it. Okay, and with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. Let's do a quick recap of what we talked about. Today, we talked about toxic positivity and why so many people search for all of these books, all of these meditations to try and help them feel better. But what seems to happen is you just find a little bit of it. You feel a little bit better, but you never quite seem to get the complete thing. And that's because you're trying to add on, right? So, first of all, the definition of toxic positivity is that you've got to be positive all the time. You've got to live with a good vibes kind of lifestyle. but that's not true, right? If you try to do that, you just create more and more resistance, and it inevitably leads to more and more suppression, which then leads to repressed memories, which then come up to haunt you later on in your life. And you can't explain why you keep having business failures, why you keep going into debt, why you keep having failed relationships. All of these patterns keep happening because there's something repressed in your subconscious that's trying to process itself, but you're just not letting it, okay? And the two keys we talked about is that happiness is a state of being which is arrived at through reduction and subtraction. You can't arrive at a state of being by adding things onto it. You just remove it, and then that's your natural state of being, peace. Number two, when you try to force yourself to feel something, you just create counterforce. This is why it's not effective to do all of the affirmations. Because if you're coming from a place of I'm not good enough, and you're telling yourself, you're trying to huff and puff your chest to be like, oh, I am good enough, I am good enough. It's just going to reinforce the internal lack of good enough, right? It's just going to consolidate the internal lack and the scarcity. And the two tools that we talked about are, number one, ending the battle. Stop fighting against yourself and allow yourself to feel what you feel. When you allow yourself to feel what you feel, the attitude behind what you're feeling changes. And this then actually lets this be processed. It gets processed and it gets let out. That's how you deal with it, right? And acceptance is better than trying to be positive. Just work on accepting. Everything that is in this moment, can you fully accept it? Can you let this be? Number two, make success unconditional, okay? Don't attach success, any conditions to your success and your well-being. The less conditions you can create, the higher the likelihood of you becoming successful. So most people think that, oh, I got to feel good and this has got to happen and that has got to happen in order for me to be successful. That's not true. Those are the conditions you're creating. Why can't you be unique? Why can't you be the exception that become successful anyways, no matter what's happening outside, no matter what the external circumstances are, no matter what's happening with the economy right now, right? And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. Please leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought of this. If you're new to the channel, just like, comment, and also hit that subscribe button if you want to see new videos from me, and also the little bell so you're notified of new videos that I put out. And as I mentioned before, the free one-to-one consult with me and my team for the Reality Mastery Program is open. Just click on the link in the description below to sign up for it. And we don't just work with anyone. Typically who we work with are entrepreneurs who want to scale up their businesses. And what they see is that their personal lives are getting in the way. Okay, internally they have a lot of limitations which keep them stuck in this roller coaster inconsistency of revenue, or they just can't quite break the revenue barrier. They're stuck at the 5K, 10K, 20K months. And if that sounds like you, just click on the link to sign up and let's see if we can help. The free Facebook group is also open for you to take advantage of. The link for that is also in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time. Peace!